Hey guys, welcome back to the bonus round here on GT from E3 2014. I'm Jeff Keighley with Victor Lucas, Steven Totillo, and Patrick Klepek. We are now going to get into Sony and the PlayStation 4, what Sony talked about here at E3. Big press conference, a lot of big announcements inside of that press conference. Sony obviously coming into E3 in a very strong position with the sales of the PlayStation 4 so far. I think everyone knew there was no way they were going to top last year's press conference, which was, absolutely incredible. No Jack Tretton, no DRM fiasco to address. Victor, what was your take on how Sony did at E3?
There is one way they could have topped themselves. They could have taken a page from Xbox's book and had a redesigned PlayStation 3 and given all of us a free one of those. That would have been gangbusters of thing. I thought PlayStation 4 was, they didn't have to do much. They didn't have to lift too many fingers to, impress us, know. But what I think they did is they really kind of showed their strengths in diversification. And a lot of people are down on the powers segment that, Brian Michael Bendis came out and talked a little bit too long about.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a very strong example of them investing in ancillary ways that were going to benefit gamers. Yeah. And I think that, when you look at the contrast with Microsoft, there's just like this Halo buffet that they keep going back to. And it's like they tip the buffet. Like there's a Ridley Scott show, there's a Steven Spielberg show, there's, all kinds of beta programs. There's all the Halo. It's just too much
They really build out Halo.
Yeah. And I think that Sony, with Morpheus and PlayStation 2, TV and some Vita software and the streaming stuff that they're working on, they showed that they're kind of stretching their fingers out in a much more palatable way than Xbox has. Now, that being said, I still wanted to see a lot more games for this year for the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the sort of the one challenge Sony has this year is that with the order slipping to next year, there really isn't a big first-party exclusive coming to the platform. But Steven, from a content perspective, what did you think of what you saw in the press conference?
There were a lot of interesting games shown there, from No Man's Sky to Bloodborne to I realize I'm doing the Sean Layden right here as well. It's just
or the
infectious.
Obama.
It's infectious. Or the Bill Clinton. I don't know, but definitely hand gestures were a thing at the PlayStation conference. They had a lot of games, but I find the Sony press conferences at E3 are usually bloated. There's just so many things they want to talk about, and one of the reasons for that is they're a victim of their own success. They support their older platforms for a long time.
Right.
So they used to, even in the PS3 heyday, have to talk about the PS2 and even maybe the PS1.
10-year life cycle.
Let's get some graphs up there.
So there was a lot of that, and as much as there was good gaming in there, and even things like Powers is actually really cool comics, so I'm excited about the show. Yeah. It does feel a bit like, have they stretched themselves too thin? Because as a Vita owner, I'm listening for where's the big Vita game.
There was no Vita software.
And there is no big Vita game.
It's a stream machine now, really. Is
and
what
as a PS4 owner, where's the big PS4 game from Sony?
Right.
And you think, well, they have all of these platforms, but do they have a good enough collection of games for that? Long-term, absolutely. First party for Sony is great. Sony systems are always a good long-term investment. But I had a little bit of a feeling of, have they stretched themselves too thin? You've made a comment at one point about how everything feels like it's all set for the future, I think. And yeah, I didn't feel like there was a lot of PlayStation for now, pun intended. And I'd like to see more.
Right. Now, PlayStation Now was a big announcement in the press conference that's coming the end of July. Seems like a pretty exciting service. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but is that sort of a game changer that people aren't giving Sony credit for?
Yeah, I had a chance to check it out on the show floor, and the first thing you notice is that it actually works surprisingly well. It's an ideal environment. They've set it up, so they're handing out beta access codes, so I'm curious to get home and see what it's like in my network setup, see how well it works. But it, if you take it at face value, it works remarkably well. I played Dead Space. I thought it was, pretty ballsy to put like a Street Fighter game up there, because that's a game that requires very precision, frame-based timing. Doubt it'll hold up on a competitive scale, but for the casual fan, if you have some friends over, it might work. Very quickly realize that it's very compressed. It doesn't have the fidelity you're looking for, but in terms of addressing things that the video game industry is very bad at, which is maintaining a back catalog and allowing people to use the games they've already purchased. I don't know if Sony's going to flip on the ability to, pop in a disc and then you get access to that on PlayStation Now. But the video game industry, is tied to technology. We tend to move forward very fast, forget where we've came from.
Yeah.
Nintendo has been the one company, Sony sometimes has been, but Nintendo historically very good at, hey, you're going to be able to put your old cartridges in the new machine and things like that.
Right.
So I'm hoping streaming technology is the new way to address that, because it is a bummer when you buy a new machine. It's just like, well, throw your old discs out or keep it connected. That's not a really great solution.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping streaming is one way that we can, sort of remember where we've come from while, we're going somewhere new.
All right, guys, hold that thought. We'll be right back here on the bonus round.